Hello and welcome. From humble beginnings, this creative British businessman built a multi-billion-dollar company that dominated the world of advertising and public relations and stunned the industry with a series of massive financial takeovers. This week on One-on-One, meet WPP founder and advertising and PR guru, Sir Martin Sorrell. His ability to take on the big guys and come out on top built his fearsome reputation in the marketing, public relations and advertising industries. In fact, by the 1990s, it was Martin Sorrell people turned to for market predictions. For the Cambridge and Harvard-educated executive, born into a Jewish family in London at the end of World War II, the turning point came in 1985, when he invested in a British shopping basket manufacturer. Wire Plastic Products, or WPP, went on to become the largest media buying group on the planet, stunning the agency world with dramatic hostile takeovers of rivals. For example, the cost of buying J. Walter Thompson and Ogilvy and Mather in the late 80s came to $566 and $825 million respectively. Sir Martin's particular skill, however, was managing the ups and downs, seeing the multi-billion-dollar organization through both tough and buoyant times. His critics have frequently tried to highlight his tenaciously aggressive nature and even his messy public divorce. But there's not much that can dent a man who shapes an industry where image can be everything. Well, Sir Martin, it's good to have some time with you.
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah, well,
we'll find out who it is.
You've been described as essentially the world's most influential ad man, and you run a multi...
That was my mother, probably.
Was it? Well, someone paid her then because she did a good job. Now, you run a multi-billion-dollar business. You know, it's an empire.
Try to, Riz. Try to. Yeah.
But the thing is, people say you speak and people listen. Certainly, the advertising agencies listen and other people listen. Do you still have that kind of influence, or has the business changed?
That's for others to figure out. I'm not overly concerned about that. As far as the business is concerned, I mean, strategically now we're focused on three areas. The first would be what people call the BRICS and the next 11, Brazil, Russia, India and China, and then another 11 markets, which interestingly includes Iran. So I don't know whether it is the next 10 or the next 11, which Goldman Sachs defined in their analysis of the faster growing markets. I hate the phrase emerging markets because they're really faster growing. So the BRICS are currently about 25% of our $15 billion of revenue. And the objective is to get it to about a third and have the US, Western Europe and the BRICS and next 11 evenly balanced. So that's number one. So that's the first dynamic. The second dynamic is new media, which you know well at Al Jazeera, is influencing, disintermediating the old media and growing not only in the traditional markets but in those new markets too. And then finally consumer insight. We now have $4 billion of revenue in market research, what we call consumer insight, post the Taylor Nelson acquisition. So that's 4 billion out of 15. So if you said to me, what would WPP look like in 10 years' time, it would be more Asian, more Latin American, more African and Middle Eastern, more outside traditional media and new media, and more focused on consumer insight.
Now, in reality, who's in the driving seat? Is it the consumers who steer the advertising agencies and the marketers, or is it really that they set the agenda and the consumers follow?
No, I think the consumers set the agenda. I mean, I think I look at WPP as a market-driven company, so the reason that we're expanding it in media planning and buying and focused it is because of that. The reason we've gone into new media is because of the way the market is changing. It's an interesting point. I think manufacturers, particularly packaged goods manufacturers, tend not to be focused on you or I as consumers, but they tend to be focused on the trade. So they're more focused on a Walmart or a Tesco or a Carrefour. And interestingly, the retailers actually pick up consumer insights and trends probably faster because their customers in their minds are definitely you and I as shoppers, and sometimes manufacturers get distanced. And the reason why I think that the retailers such as Walmart and Carrefour and Tesco have been so successful is that they are much closer to the consumer.
Do you consider yourself a visionary or a maverick in business?
Well, the BBC called me a maverick, actually. I was quite deeply offended, actually. With that. I mean, that was I don't know. Listen, I can't call myself a visionary or maverick. It's a bit like you saying whether I have any impact. That's up to others to. I mean, I do like to look at where we think the world is going. So the geographic strategies that we have and the functional strategies that we have, which I think sets the agenda and is key, are important. So I think we try, and when we're in Davos or when we're at the Allen & Co. conference in Sun Valley or wherever it happens to be, or JP Morgan's, Jamie Dimon's conference, you sit and listen, or Microsoft or Cisco, John Chambers' conference, you sit and listen to where people say the world is going, consumers are going, our clients are going, governments are going, and you try and make some judgment about what impact that has on the way that we run our business. I mean, we started 23, 24 years ago with 2 people in one room. We now have 133,000, if I include associates. That's companies that we own.
Let's take it back to where it all began. You were born into a Jewish family at the tail end of World War II.
In northwest London, in the ghetto in Golders Green.
What do you remember of that time?
What do I remember? Well, I don't remember much. I was born in 1945. I don't remember my first. I remember my mother shutting the door, and the flat in Queensborough caught on my finger. I can remember looking through the door jamb. Actually, if you ask me, that's about the first recognition. I don't know how old I was. I must have been about sort of 5 years old. When I was 8, 1953, coronation year, we sort of moved up market to Mill Hill. The move from Henley's Corner in Golders Green to Mill Hill. We became posh, and I can remember having lunch in a card table, which in the room became my father's office. I can remember that green baize card table. I can remember the coronation just about, so I was about 8 years old.
Was it happy? It was a happy time?
Oh yes, I was a spoiled only child.
In fact, you had a brother who had died.
Died a year before, yes, dry birth.
How did that affect the way your parents treated you? I mean, you were there.
Well, I think my mother became, a doting Jewish mother, and my father was. I had a very close relationship with my father. I mean, he died in 1989, which is the year that we acquired Ogilvy, and he died just after we acquired Ogilvy, actually on July the 1st.
Your mother Sally was, as you say, a doting mother, but in what way did she influence you? What sort of characteristics did you get from her?
Actually, I think to be fair, that my father probably was more influential on me than my mother. My mother had the classic old world family function. Didn't do anything really until she became very involved in a charity, Jewish Care, for I think 25, 30 years in northwest London, which was a daycare centre for old people, probably the largest, well, not probably the largest in Europe at the time. And she loved it. She went in every day. So when I really, left the family fold to go to university, so that was when I was about, say, about 1963. She started to get involved in other activities, but she really didn't have a job and focused on bringing me up. But my relationship with my father was very, very, very close. I mean, I think not only was a father, but a best friend and an advisor. And I think that that's an important element to what you do. I think most people that I talk to have somebody that they can confide in, and it's unusual. I think. Father-son relationships sometimes. I would love to have gone into business with my father, for example, and we did try for a brief moment, but my dad had decided, and I think I decided too. Well, I didn't decide; he decided it wouldn't work.
You had a fairly high-flying sort of elite education in the sense that you got to Cambridge, you went to Harvard.
Yeah, University. I mean, I was fortunate because my father left school when he was 13, became a sort of barrack room lawyer, and gave up, I think, an academic career. He could quote chunks of Shakespeare, quite remarkable, to his dying day. Speeches Henry V at Agincourt, Julius Caesar, absolutely amazing. So he, I think, valued education and made, I wouldn't say sacrifices, but gave me the freedom to go to a good school, Haberdashers. I was lucky enough to get into Cambridge. Struggled with economics for 3 years. My best friend there was Simon Sharma, who's now a very famous historian, born one day earlier than me, and then went to Harvard Business School.
Were you a good student? I know you've been quite.
No, I was very average. I was a 2-2 at Cambridge. Yeah, well, but I was a 2-2, and a 2-2 really meant something. I mean, with great inflation, that would be equivalent at least to a 2-1 now. No, I worked terribly hard, but I never really made it. I think, particularly disorganized. I've seen with my sons. I have 3 sons who all actually went to Cambridge, and they are much more organized than me. And they manage their time much more effectively than me. I used to throw everything at it. I didn't manage my time in chunks, and I liked rugby and I liked cricket, and it was all a mixture for me, not an hour in the morning doing football training or something, and an hour in the afternoon.
Now, your three sons ended up, they ended up all going to Goldman Sachs. Why not work with the family firm?
There is no family firm.
Well,
no, I own about 1.5% of the company, or a little bit less than that. And if I had,
but it's your baby. You founded it.
Yeah, no, I think founding a company is, as I've said before, is as close as you can come a man coming to have a baby. But no, it isn't. It isn't mine, and therefore, and I don't have a non-voting stock and a voting stock mechanism that ensures that I have voting control. So it's not mine. I mean, going back to my father, the difficulty of him and I sort of working together, although we love one another deeply. I don't think that should be forced. Dynasties, they have their ups and their downs. There are some very successful ones and there are some very unsuccessful ones. I don't subscribe to the Buffett approach, which is, you get rid of all your wealth and you don't leave anything to the next generation. And they shouldn't. Well, I think he has compromised that slightly. But so I don't believe in that. So anything that I have will go to the next generation. But having said that, I think working together sometimes induces stresses and strains. If I owned WPP, if it was a private company, or if I had 51% of the stock, it might be different. But I think if you own 1.25% of the company in this day and age, it will cause such a brouhaha if you did it, even if you thought it was a good idea. It's pointless.
So, Martin, more questions. We're going to take a short break here. We're right back after this break.